Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Jiharan Maharani. I want to present about Intro to Literature final test assignment. There will be 3 points or 3 number. Here's that I will answer the first season about poetry. I have a short biography Emily Dickinson. The biography of Emily Dickinson, American poetry. Emily Dickinson was an American poet who is famous for his personality that eccentric and often has dumps that immortality. Even so, he is a prolific writer. Only a few of his poems were published happy life. Even though only a few of his poems of unknown when he was alive, his poems almost in all has become an important part of the canon American literature, and scholars and readers have long been fascinated by his unusual life. First fake Emily Dickinson. Emily Elizabeth Dickinson, known for December 10 in Amherst, Massachusetts, died May 15 in Amherst, Massachusetts. Edward Dickinson and Emily Norcross Dickinson. Amherst Academy, Mount Holyoke Female Seminar, published works, poetry, third series. Important quote: "If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold that no fire can warm me, I know it's poetry." Young Emily Elizabeth Dickinson was born in prominent family in Amherst, Massachusetts. His father, Edward Dickinson, is a lawyer, politician, and superintendent of Amherst College. He and his wife, Emily, has 3 children. Emily Dickinson is the second child and Dr. eldest, and he has an older brother, William Austin, or which is usually using his middle name, and a younger sister, Lavinia. After all, Dickinson is a child pleasant and well-behaved who really likes music. Because Dickinson's father insisted that his children be highly educated, Dickinson received a stricter and more classical education than many other girls of her time. When he was 10 years old, a former academy for boys that had just started accepting girls 2 years earlier. Dickinson continued to excel in his studies despite his harsh and challenging nature, and studied literature, science, history, philosophy, and Latin. Sometimes he had to take time off from school due to repeated illness. Okay, the next I will to explain about summary of Oliver Twist's novel, prose. Oliver Twist, The Paris Boy's Progress, is Charles Dickens' second novel and was published as a serial from and the serial Utut, and the story centers on orphan Oliver Twist, born in a workhouse and sold into apprenticeship with an undertaker. After escaping, Oliver travels to London, where he meets the artful dodger, a member as a gang of juvenile pickpockets led by the elderly criminal Faggot. Oliver Twist contains an undramatic portrayal of criminal and then sounded live and expose the cruel treatment of the many orphans in London in the mid 19th century. In this early example, if the social novel, Dickens satirized the hypocrisies of his time, including hard labor, domestic violence, the recruitment of children as criminal, and the presence of three children. A novel may have been inspired by the story of Robert Lincoln, an orphan whose account of working as a child labor in a cotton mill was widely read in the. It is likely that Dickens' own experience as a youth contribute as well. Agreed, a poor ensues the board a well-fed gentleman who administered the workhouse over any person wishing to take on the buy as an apprentice. Mr. Gamp filed a brutal chimney sweep, almost claims Oliver. However, when Oliver begs despairingly not to be sent away with that dreadful man, a kind magistrate refused to sign the indenture's letter. Mr. Sowerberry, an undertaker employed by the parish, takes Oliver into his service. He treats Oliver better, and because of the boy's sorrowful countenance, as him is a murmur at children's funerals. Mr. Sowerberry is an unhappy marriage, and his wife looks down on Oliver on Miss Fove import opportunities to underfeed and mistreat him. He also suffers torment at the hands of Noah Claypole and a codfish. Oliver promotion to Mute and Carlotte, the Sowerberry maidservant, who is in love with Noah. Okay, the next I will to explain about characteristic and characters Oliver Twist's novel. As the child hero of melodramatic novel of social protest, Oliver Twist is meant to appeal more to our sentiments than to our literary sensibilities. On many levels, Oliver is not a believable character because although he is wretched and corrupt, surrounding has poverty and virtue are absolute throughout the novel. Dickens asks Oliver character to challenge the Victorian idea that paupers and criminals are already evil at birth, arguing instead that corrupt environment is the source or vice. At the same time, Oliver in corrupt cheating undermines some of Dickens' asserting Oliver moral scrupulous about the sanctity of property seem inborn in him. Just as Dickens Opponents thought that corruption is inborn in poor people. Furthermore, other pauper children, as Rowe cognizing late Oliver, oddly enough, speaks in pauper King's English. Even we might feel that the Dickens social critics which haven't been more effective if he had focused on a more complex poor character like the artful Pulgar or Nancy Oliver twice when critics for portraying thief and prostitutes at all, given the strict morals and Dickens' audience, it may have seemed necessary for him to make Oliver a saint-like figure because Oliver appealed to Victorian readers' sentiments. His story may have stood a better chance of effectively challenge their prejudice. The next, I will to explain about drama story wrong number. I will to explain the answer and number 1, where does Mr. Stevenson suddenly go away to on a business trip? Boston. Number 2, what does Mr. Stevenson overhear on the phone when trying to contact her husband? Murder. In that, what city does the play take place? New York. What is the primary motivation for Miss Stevenson killer? She is sick, high maintenance, and fussy. Okay, thank you everyone for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.